In this lesson, we're going to talk about target ROAS bidding. And target ROAS bidding, you might remember it, but it's one of the automated bidding strategies. So if we look at the optimization pyramid, we're clearly at the bidding stage of our optimization routine. A quick reminder, what were bidding strategies? Well, we had manual CPC, we had enhanced CPC, and I touched on the maximize clicks bidding strategy. This was already an automated bidding strategy where we gave Google some control. In this case, we just give them the budget and they get us as many clicks as you can. I told you to be careful with that. So in this lesson, we're going to look at target ROAS, which is also a bit automated bidding strategy, but one that makes a lot more sense. So ROAS. This is return on ad spend, and it's a metric you calculate by taking your revenue and dividing it by the ad spend. For example, a ROAS of 450% means that for every dollar you put into your campaigns, you get back $4.5 in revenue. For people new to this, it's sometimes it's an easy metric. It's very easy to calculate. You get all the metrics you need, or you got all the elements there. You got revenue, you got ad spend. But this is not how a lot of companies work. Companies work based on profit, ROI, margin, not always ROAS. But because ROAS is so easily available, it's the easiest to look at. So how do you decide what the best return on ad spend is for your business? So to help you come up with the ad spend you need, I created this little calculator, and it works like this. So here on the left-hand side, you have to fill in all of your values related to your costs. And then on the right-hand side, there's like a simulation. So COGS, which means cost of goods sold. So all of the costs here, I want you to express it as a percentage of your sales price. So for example, cost of goods sold. What percentage of that is related to it? Is it 30% or maybe it's 60%? Shipping costs. So maybe this is not a part of the sales price, but let's say take it on your average order. Let's say your average order is $100 and your shipping cost is $5. So it would mean 5%. You can also leave it at 0 if you calculate it within this other costs. So then there's the other costs. Some people like to keep it simple and only include the cost of goods sold and the shipping to get the rough numbers, but you can also include the other costs to make it more complete. You can even get to your net margin that way. And then lastly, tax. If you're collecting sales tax, you have to make sure that you also deduct this from this to get the right numbers, because we're only looking at revenue, not so the sales tax will be part of that. Then all of that here, this decides your margin, the gross or net margin, depending if you filled in the other costs. And that will also give you your break-even ROAS. So based on these numbers, if I have a 70% margin, I only need 143% return on ad spend. So on the right hand side, you can see a little simulation. I got here the revenue, the ad spend, which we kept at $1,000, and here the ROAS, and here you can see the margin. And this margin is also based on all the costs you put in here. So you can see that here, the 143% margin, that's somewhere here. If you're hitting a ROAS of 200%, you're making 20% margin, and then you can go up that way, okay? So this is pretty favorable, like a 30% margin, a 30% cost of goods sold and no other costs. That's pretty good. Let me take you through some numbers that I had with an actual client of mine. So here, his cost of goods sold was 75%. He was reselling a pretty competitive product. So his other costs were 15%. So that included the overhead of his team and his warehousing, all related costs. That meant that he had only 10% margin to work with, which is very, very low. And that meant that his break-even ROAS was 1,000%. So if we look here, So he needed to make back, so if you invested 1,000, he needed to make back 10,000 in revenue. And you can see that the margin here only very slowly climbs. So if we manage to get a 2,000% margin, he only makes back 5% in profit. This is the profit margin. That's not a lot, but this was compensated by the fact that that the amounts or the revenue was very high. It was like a very high ticket prices. So you can see that it can be pretty tough, but I hope with this calculator that you can put in your values and get a bit of a feel for what you should be able to hit. Okay, so now you know what you have to hit. But what are you going to put in the Google Ads interface? Because the difference between what you want to hit, meaning you take the break even and you add some percentage points, versus what is possible. Because just setting your campaigns to 450% ROAS doesn't mean that you will automatically achieve that goal. It could be that the actual ROAS that's attainable or achievable in this market is a lot lower. So you need to figure out what ROAS you can hit. And because if you set your ROAS too high, let's say you want to hit 450% and you run your campaigns out of the gate based on that, you actually will starve your campaigns, because Google Ads will say, well, I can't achieve that return, so actually I won't show you that much. So now we know two things. We know what ROAS we should hit, but we can't automatically expect this to happen. So what are some practical tips in order to achieve the goals that we want to hit? Well, you start off your campaigns with your manual or enhanced CPC for a while. I would suggest to at least you wait until you have about 100 conversions. And this will give the system some data to work with. And it will also give you some data to work with. Because if your goal is a 450% ROAS and your historical performance with manual or enhanced CPC only got you a 200% ROAS, well, just switching bidding strategies won't make those campaigns more profitable all of a sudden. So you kind of know what is a realistic target. Another practical tip is to use campaigns with similar products. So if you're going to add an automated bidding strategy to a campaign, what's going to happen is Google is going to use all of its system and its machine learning and maybe AI and all those buzzwords, but it's going to use its algorithms to help you find more interesting clicks. And if you have campaigns with similar products, it will do a lot better job and it will help you achieve results a lot quicker. Because let's say you have two products in a campaign. One product that easily hits a ROAS of 1,000%, meaning that for every dollar you put in, you make 10 back. And in that same campaign, you have another product that makes back only $2 for every dollar you put in. What happens if you combine it? Well, Google kind of will average them out, but the result will be kind of a messy signal to Google, because one click is worth a lot of money, and the other clicks don't really result in a lot of sales and a lot of revenue coming in. So group your campaigns with similar products, not only with return but also in sense of seasonality. So if you group campaigns that do well together, Google can start basing its algorithms on that information. If you put items together that one will sell well in summer, one will sell well in winter, well, again, the algorithm is going to get mixed results, and your actual end result might not be super high. If you switch campaigns to an automated bidding strategy like Target ROAS, it's going to go through a learning phase. And this learning phase can result in, if you make the switch, an immediate drop in impressions and clicks and sales. So that's pretty nerve-wracking for a lot of people, but this learning phase can take up to 30 days. You won't have to wait 30 days for your results to pick back up, but know that your results will go down at least in the days after, while the algorithm actually gets smarter and starts optimizing your campaigns. And then last, I want to say that it's possible to also use this target ROAS with a multiple campaign setup. as we saw in the search query level bidding video, where we had a couple of campaigns with the same products. You can share a budget, but also use the target ROAS bidding strategy. So I just wanted to mention that because sometimes it's not always clear if those two go together. So as an example, our goal is to hit a 500% ROAS. Our historical performance is actually at 300%. So what do you set this to? As I said, you try to look for campaigns that have a good performance, a good historical performance. So maybe you switch some campaigns over to target ROAS and others you keep on manual. Or switch them over altogether. But make sure that the campaigns that you do switch over have a good historical performance and that have similar products. So if your target is 500 but you're only at 300, you can start at 300 and then slowly increase. So if you're able to hit 300 without a problem, you can increase it to 320 or 350 and then see what happens with the clicks and impressions. Because as I said, if you scale it too fast and go from 300 and then to 500, you will actually starve your campaigns. The number of clicks and impressions will go down. I've seen this happen a couple of times where people just making random changes to this ROAS, and it's really like a delicate thing. Like if you make switches to it, things can go south pretty fast. So let me show you how this actually looks in your account. So you can find those bidding settings again in the settings of a specific campaign. Bid settings. Now it's set to manual CPC. If you click here, change bidding strategy, set target ROAS, and here you actually have to fill in the percentage. So if you put 450%, it means that I need to make back $4.5 for every dollar that I put in. Just hit save and that's it. To wrap up our target ROAS bidding lesson, I want to just give you a couple of practical tips to get started. First, identify which goal you need to hit. Then look at your historical performance. What have you been able to achieve? Identify certain one or more campaigns that would be suitable for this bidding strategy. Implement, and then afterwards evaluate if target ROAS bidding is right for that campaign.